Well, thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah.
I stumbled across your page. I don't know how, honestly. I literally just saw you in my newsfeed, and I was like, dude, this guy's up some cool stuff.
Yeah.
So
What part of the country you at?
right now I'm in California, Northern
Yeah.
California.
Oh, Northern California. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
How about you?
I'm actually in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay. So we both in
Yeah.
the same time zone.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, I can't wait till I can go and travel to Mount Shasta because
Yeah.
I've been waiting to rent a car because right now just living in Portland, like the transportation system's so good here, and I basically just kind of Uber everywhere
Yeah.
and stuff. So so I'm just waiting for the car rentals to open up so I can drive down to Mount Shasta. So it's only like a 5-hour drive,
Yeah.
which is
You
nice.
can
Yeah.
see Mount Shasta from my meditation hut.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you must be like near like Reading or something,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I know a few people out that way.
I built a little meditation hut. It's like
Oh.
really in the middle of nowhere. You have to drive for like half an hour into the wilderness. The last 15 minutes, it's a dirt road that's barely a road. It's more like a washed out river, and it's like bumpy as fuck. But then you get to my place, and there I have a meditation hut.
Oh, nice.
And there's mountain lions and coyotes. So when I'm coming out at night from my meditation hut, I always have a knife in one hand. And it feels so weird because I'm so peaceful after meditating all day. And I'm really knife though.
Right.
I don't know, man. Like mountain lions, sometimes they jump humans.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of unpredictable. Like it's very rare, but it can happen. So I'm better safe than sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, ever since I saw that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio when he was fighting that bear, I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, oh God.
Right? That shit was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder what would happen if you encounter a mountain lion totally peacefully and totally present.
Yeah, I mean, I kid you not, like when I had went through like my first like awakening process, I was literally in like this trance or whatever, and I just remember that it was a couple of like wolves that were crossing the street, and I was crossing the street too, and we both like stopped and paused, but since I didn't show any fear towards it, it just looked at me and then just went its own way. So so I feel like they animals can pick up on your energy, you know what I mean, and they know, and I feel like if you're on high vibes, then I don't feel like an animal will really mess with you because you're just on that high vibe, and then just being connected with Mother Nature and stuff.
Yeah,
it's just like why would any harm come towards you? Yeah.
I heard a story from a friend that his friend was watering his garden. And he looked back, and in his tracks, he saw mountain lion tracks that he just made. So he was like, this mountain lion is here right now. And then he turns around, and the thing is just standing like 5 foot behind him. Like a huge mountain lion. So he's like, he raises his hands, sits down very slowly, and he has a drum next to him. And he starts playing the drum and singing. Until the mountain lion literally went up to his face like this. Was breathing into his face and then walked away.
Wow.
Right?
Oh my God.
I mean, that must be such a crazy experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
To be that close up in your face like that and then walk away. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wild.
That is wild. That's a wild story. I don't think I've heard a story like that. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, I think it also works with humans. I think it's actually self-defense to use compassion and presence to encounter a threat. I was, for example, I was playing my saxophone in a parking garage. We were playing a show in Springfield, Missouri, and
oh wow,
and right outside of the club in the back was this parking garage, and I'm just warming up my saxophone in the parking garage. Suddenly, these 3 meth heads just run into the parking garage, like almost foaming out of their mouth, like totally out of it, like wide-eyed, and I obviously sensed that their energy is that they're trying to attack. So they come and they're, hey, what are you doing, huh? Give me that saxophone. Let me try. And I was like, okay, try my saxophone. Then the other guy goes behind me and pushes me into the other guy because they're trying to stir up some aggression, right? Because it's hard to attack someone when they're fully relaxed.
Right.
You need to have some sort of feedback of, I give you anger, you give me fear, and then let's go.
Yeah.
And so and then he pushed me, and then the other guy tried to rile himself up. What the fuck are you doing? Like hitting me like that? And I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I did not mean to hit you. I tripped. So I also didn't want to blame the guy that pushed me. So I said, sorry, dude, I just tripped. You know, I'm playing a show tonight. If you guys want to be VIPs, I'll write you on the guest list. And they were like, really? And they were so startled and confused by this reaction that they suddenly just turned around and left, the 3 of them.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, because I was just in such a deep, relaxed, meditative state that it almost seemed so foreign to me to want to harm someone for no reason.
Yeah.
I couldn't really feel fear either, because it was like, what is this? Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And that's why, you know, when it comes to the human society and just like all this, you know, fear-based kind of stuff, you know, that's the one thing that the media is good at doing, as creating fear energy. Because with fear energy, you can control and manipulate people so well, because you get their emotions stuck in that fear energy. You know what I mean? So yeah.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, fear is based on having the will of a few control the will of many. It's actually, I was writing about this in my last book, The Sequence of Latent Truths, about the different types of organization. And I was writing about love-based organization and fear-based organization. But in that chapter, I'm using love and fear. I differentiate between the emotion of love and the principle of love, and the emotion of fear and the principle of fear. The principle of love is the will to relate to other free will units in a way that integrates their will. While fear is the aversion of, not the aversion, the diversion of another being's will, right? So whether it's through anger or whether it's through manipulation, it's all fear consciousness. And so I think our society is right now at that point where fear consciousness is kind of collapsing, you know, because it doesn't build very solid systems. It builds systems where everybody works together, not because they want to, but because they have to. They feel forced to work together. Like everybody, all the shops, they don't want to be there. They are doing this because they have to. They're pressured by the system, by the fear-based system.
Yeah. That's true.
And I think that's what love systems, that could be the next version of humanity, is when people relate together because they want to, and not because they have to.
Because yeah, that's true. Very true, man. Yeah. Wow. No, that's deep. Have you done like any like videos on that at all? Like on YouTube or IG? Okay.
I'm pretty bad with promoting shit, but I try to do, you know, videos about meditation and how to step into another type of consciousness. And
Nice.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
So what got you started on this journey?
Oh, well, this happened years ago, back in 2012, was when I had got on this whole path. And it began the summer of 2012. Back then, I was signed to Universal Music Group. So I was doing music at the time, and I was with one of my producers, and we were just, making just songs the whole summer and stuff. And then I was at home, and he had texted me something. He was like, "Hey, check out this YouTube video," and it was the Spirit Science group. I don't know if
Yeah.
you came across the
Yeah.
organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I had watched one of their YouTube videos, and they were talking about, like Atlantis and all this kind of stuff. And the information, it was so weird to me because it sounded familiar, like I heard this before, but I'm like, I've never read any of this. It was very strange. Why I feel like I know what they're talking about. It was
Yeah.
weird. I was like, okay. And then I had I was like, man, I'm like, okay. I just kept feeling that I needed to meditate. I needed to be a part of some kind of meditation group or something. And so I went online. I was kind of searching and stuff. And
Wait, you
then
spontaneously just felt you needed to meditate?
yeah, I just felt, that's what I just kept feeling.
Were you smoking weed?
Um, I mean, yeah, I was, but it wasn't really even that. It was just like,
It just
it was,
came out of nowhere.
yeah, like I was feeling that even without even having to smoke any cannabis on that. So, so I just kept feeling it. And then it got to about November of 2012, and I came across. It was so weird because somehow I came across Edgar Casey. I don't even know how
Yeah.
I came across Edgar Casey. Came
Okay.
across his work, and I was like, and I was reading a little bit. I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know why. This is very weird. Why I feel like I understand what he's talking about. So then I went to, somebody told me to check out Meetup. And so I checked out Meetup, came across a group, this organization who they were doing, at the time, it was so funny because they were doing a Edgar Casey style kind of reading where this priestess, she would go into this kind of this deep meditation trance or whatever, and will tell you things just like how Edgar Casey did.
Channeling.
So yeah, and so I went to an event that they had. There is a lady in Los Angeles. I think she goes by Gail Thicky. She's pretty. She's kind of known. Like some people like know her and stuff. But it was at her like residence up in the mountains and everything. And I went to go check out the group. And then after that, I had went to Vegas. It was crazy because I met Sophia Stewart, who was the original creator of the Matrix and Terminator movies.
No way.
And yeah, and she wrote, like, those movies are based off of a book / manuscript that she wrote back in 1981. I think it's called The Third Eye. And so those movies are based on her book, The Third Eye. And she talks about some really powerful stuff in there too. And then, and so when I met her, she was like, oh yeah, read this part when the gods walk the earth. And I was like, okay. And so I went to go read it. And then once again, it was crazy because, sorry. In the Spirit Science video, they talked about someone named Akhenaten. And then in her book, she talked about Akhenaten too. And so I was like, okay. And this all had to do with star people and star people energy and stuff like that. That's been here and that was been very present here for a very long time. And so so she was like telling me all this stuff, and I was reading this, and I was like, okay. And then it wasn't until December 3rd, I will never forget it. It was December 3rd. I came back to LA, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and actually go to this meditation, like an actual meditation. So the first meditation I ever did was Kundalini meditation.
Very nice.
So doing the chakra clearing and all that kind of stuff, and just really working with your Kundalini energy. So that's the first meditation I dived into. And
that was December 3rd, 2012?
Yeah, 2012. Yeah.
Okay.
And so when that happened, I just remember doing that meditation. I just saw a lot of like hieroglyphs and pyramids and stuff, and then I just remember me seeing this guy who had a bird mask on, and I was like, "Who is this?" And so this being like gave me this golden scroll and told me to swallow it. And so I swallowed the scroll, and
And this was
then
all in meditation.
yeah, this is all when I was in like this meditation trance and stuff. And so I come out of it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, this is so weird. Like I had this like this dude or whatever, he had like a bird mask on, and so I'm like, oh wait, is it Horus or something? I'm like, no. And then they showed me a picture. I was like, no, that's not it. And then they showed me another picture of an ibis, and I was like, oh yeah, that's the mask I saw. And they're like, oh, that's Thoth. And I was like, who?
That's who?
Thoth.
Oh
you
yeah.
Just got Thoth? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, who? And they're like, yeah, the Egyptian god of wisdom and knowledge. I'm like, you're like, what? He gave you a scroll? I'm like,
dude, that gives me goosebumps. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Spontaneously reconnected. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the next day I woke up like a mad scientist. Like I knew numerology, I knew things about astrology. I was just knowing stuff, and it was really tripping me out. And then I remember I had called up the organizer of that meditation group I was in. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, yo, like these numbers keep coming to me, and somehow I'm able to figure out people based on numbers. I don't even know nothing about this. And so I was telling her stuff about her, and then some people in the group based on numbers I was seeing around them. And she was like, she's like, I know numerologists that don't even say some of the things that you're saying, and you're actually being, accurate on it. And she was like, how did this happen? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I think it has to do with that damn scroll. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how my journey started, man. And then after that,
by swallowing a golden scroll.
Yeah. Yeah.
During Kundalini meditation.
Yeah, right.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My journey started actually with Vipassana meditation. Yeah.
Okay.
So during Vipassana, a bit about Vipassana? It's like a 10-day retreat of 10 hours a day. The first 3 days you focus on the sensations of your breath as they go through your nose and out. And whenever the mind wanders, you bring it right back. And you do that 10 hours a day. Drives you insane. Your legs start to hurt, your back starts to hurt. But eventually you're just like, well, I'm not leaving this retreat. There's 200 other people here. They can do it. So I can do it too.
Right.
I think in that case, sometimes it's very powerful to start with a lot of people because you encourage each other. Even you don't talk,
Sure.
Just the fact that there's other people going through it encouraged me to keep going. I probably would have quit if I did it on my own. Anyway, then you start doing these body scans where you just feel the sensations on your head, and you just literally scan your whole body patch by patch, down and back up. And you do that for 7 days, 10 hours a day. And probably on the 6th day or something, I suddenly had this experience where my whole body, I saw my whole body from within as these different energies. And so I didn't really see them like chakras or anything like that, but I had a distinct feeling that this green energy floating on my head and this red energy here, and then suddenly they went like this, whoop, and they were upside down. And in that moment, when that happened, I opened my eyes and I didn't know who I was. I only knew I was love and presence. That was all there was to it. And there was no more I'm Wenzl, I'm a musician, I went to this retreat because I wanted to cope with anxiety and blah, blah, blah. All that life story was just wiped out. And walked outside and I was staring at this tree, and I saw kind of how the same energy was flowing through me, was also flowing through the tree. And the tree kind of was in the same state. I was in the same state as the tree. And so through that, it's kind of like telepathically said, yeah, I've been here all this time. You just couldn't see me because you were too busy following your psychological noise. And in that moment, I just broke down crying. And then I spent maybe a day or two in this complete bliss. And then though, there was suddenly a little voice that got worried. Whereas like, well, how am I gonna get home? Where am I gonna go? Who am I? like, what is this? And as soon as that happened, the re-identification with self, I felt this grip almost on my head that became like a torrent, a current that started to draw me into it. And then it felt like I just started falling, and it became like the most nightmarish trip of just falling into the depths and not knowing where it's leading. And in that process, I started to scream for help inside of myself. And suddenly I felt like a hand to touch me right here. But there was nobody there, but I could feel it. And then it started to draw a line up here. And it almost started to feel like a laser beam was like creating these patterns in my brain.
Yeah.
And it became this really long process of kind of dealing with this energy that was somehow rewiring my brain.
Yeah.
And at first I didn't trust it, because when I went to this meditation retreat, I wasn't spiritual whatsoever. I was actually an atheist, and I didn't believe there was anything outside of the physical universe. I thought physical universe, that's it. And I thought the fact that I think I'm a conscious being is an illusion of matter just interacting with matter. But suddenly this force was like, no, you're actually just an eternal being believing to be a human being. And it kind of started telling me that through the language of science. It was like you're a coherent quantum vibration organizing the information which you believe to be physical. It's actually just a simulation. And that's literally the dialogue I was having with this being.
Right.
And I was like, I'm in a simulation. And this being was like, yes. And I'm like, why did nobody tell me? Like, my whole life isn't real? What the fuck is happening? And I started bugging out about this. And it became a very tumultuous process. And then this being started to show me this figure 8, like a glowing figure 8 that was like just a blue figure 8, and it was saying that this is like a reconfiguration of an energy flow that is faulty, that is causing all this fear to spill out into a physical reality. And so I at this point I was like, okay, I'm going crazy, and I kind of like I disengaged, and then I felt heartbroken for a whole year, because I felt like a part of me knew that this was actually a journey that I was supposed to go on, while another part didn't trust it. And then exactly in December, that was also in December 2013. Then December 2014, the exact same thing happens again. This being comes to me and it's like, now you're ready to complete this figure 8. Wow. And so, long story short, it was like a 2-week process where it felt like laser beams were shooting through my body, and my heart was lifted out as a glowing ball and condensed and put back in. Circle was, it was like the most sci-fi shit ever. And, and I couldn't even believe it was really happening to me, and nobody else could see it. I only could see it through closed eyes, almost like I was going into this other dimension of non-physical energy. Anyway, then I went into this shape as a white light and just started oscillating with actually with the essence of my friend, who is also my partner in my band. And we both kind of went like this until it went faster and faster and faster and faster, and it was just one figure eight. And then they were like, all right, your mission is completed. Now finish your physical life, and we'll see you later. Wow. And they kind of threw me back into this life. And it was unbelievable. It took me some time to readjust to being a physical human and kind of having to, live a physical life.
Oh yeah. I definitely understand that feeling. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I gotta. Transition back into
when these like far out realms, like sometimes you can feel. Sometimes for me at least, it was hard to go back into simple human life.
Yeah, for sure. It is. Yeah, because I mean, that was the same way for me. It took me a while to integrate back into society and stuff like that, and to get back on social media and stuff like that. Because I cut myself off, for a few years. On social media. Like I just got back on social media in 2018, September of 2018 was when I started, posting and started doing more stuff with social media and everything. But before 2018, like, I was barely like, I mean, I was on it. Like I was kind of on it a little bit, like in 2016, kind of posting here and there. But I really, like 2015, I remember I had like, I told my roommate, I was like, just lock my phone up and I just don't need it right now. He was so confused, like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I just don't need it. And I just went out into nature for like 6 months. I was,
wow, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was, I didn't want to live in, I needed to be outside. Like it was very important for me to just be out in nature. And so I did. Like I slept by the beach, slept up in the woods, like had a tent and stuff. And
wow.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's medicine.
Yeah. So definitely, I do appreciate the hermit times of of doing that. Yeah, because there's so much knowledge and wisdom that comes in when you just let go of all the distraction that our society has and just really be present, really be in the moment between time and space,
Yeah. Yeah, and nature is the best place to do that because nature is nothing else but presence in the sense that a tree doesn't think about tomorrow, a squirrel doesn't worry if it's beautiful enough, and a frog has no problems with low self-esteem. They're all in this moment being what they are.
Yeah.
And we human beings somehow have developed this egoic mind that always wants to project ourselves into the future and sort of create this fake identity of that's not really based on just being present and being who we are. It's based on an idea of I should be beautiful. If I do this, they might love me. And all this thought that is just driving humans insane.
Exactly.
To the point where we're killing nature, to the point where we're cutting forests down because we think furnitures are more important than living trees.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's why I feel, part of everything that's going on, that's why the world needs to slow down right now. Especially when I look at it on from an astrological sense, being involved in astrology and really digging deep into astrology and stuff. And I tend to study more Vedic astrology than I do Western. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we were already warned about this time frame like 2 years ago, but really like some of the astrologers that were kind of seeing that in the sky, they really didn't know what exactly it was, but they just kept saying like just prep for fall winter time, the next couple of years, stay on top of your health because something is
really
coming. But yeah,
that was wow. That's incredible.
Yes. Yeah. That was something that was, written right in the stars, so So I really started to incorporate more astrology in my life. And ever since I've done that, everything just makes more sense to me more than ever. And it makes a lot of sense why, this was something that we were taught long ago on how to read the sky. But because of the Dark Age and the Council of Nicaea and that whole organization really just Rome just remapped everything, got rid of like almost 2,000 years of history before the Renaissance and Roman movement and stuff. So really our society is based on Roman philosophy. It's not really based on any advanced civilization philosophy at all, which is why, we're really more in a past than we are in a kind of like futuristic way of moving forward. We should have been tapped into free energy and not having these cars that run off of gas. Like how is it 2020 we're still doing this? Like really kind of crazy.
Unfortunately, fear and all its creations has been guiding humanity for centuries. That's unfortunate. I had an ex-girlfriend, her name was Julia, and she used to be a channeler, but she would never talk to anybody about it because she thought everybody else would think she's crazy.
Oh, okay.
But she would always, not always, but occasionally see this ring of beings just floating towards her, and it was 8 heads joined together, and they kind of had faces a little bit, a mixture between a turtle and a praying mantis. So kind of alien looking, and they would come to her and sort of start speaking to her. And sometimes at night, sometimes during the day, but mostly in the evenings. And so one night I was sleeping next to her and she started whispering stuff, and she was like, I'm hearing a voice, and she's just repeating everything back to me. And I was like, can I record this? And she was like, sure. And so I recorded like 2,000 words of what these beings were telling her. And it was the most interesting thing. It was about learning to serve and becoming the still point within ourselves. So unidentifying with all the time and space-based identity shapes of egoic structures and becoming just the still point here and now. And then serving from there. And they were always saying, serve the eternal network. And they were also telling me, focus less on interpersonal relationships. Those are transient. And focus more on serving each node, like a mushroom network, where they're all connected and they're all serving each other. So, but the reason I'm telling you this story is because what you said reminded me of, it's kind of far out association, but anyhow, that they were also saying that our reality is an experiment of what would win, fear or love. And they meant really the whole Big Bang. Like from the beginning of time, the way the system was set up, how consciousness interacts with the information we perceive to be matter, that when it evolves, what do you find more? Survival of the fittest or symbiosis? Survival of the fittest, out-competing each other, symbiosis, working together, love consciousness, fear consciousness. And then they were kind of saying that, how the experiment, the sort of fear is dominating right now. But how it's every person's option at any moment to let go of fear and to grow towards love and grow towards the still point, the moving our identity from egoic structures to presence and serving. Have you encountered this idea that we're here to grow our consciousness to become love through your experiences?
With my experience, that's one of the things that I'm working on developing for like workshops is self-love.
Yeah.
Because that is key. In order to experience and understand unconditional love, you also have to understand what self-love is, to have that balance. Because the more self-love you have towards yourself, the more you can express love better to others.
Yeah.
Because you are in acceptance of yourself, therefore you can be more in acceptance of others, even those that are different from you or may be on a different path. So so absolutely, love is definitely the key. But we're getting to a point where we need to understand love not based on conditions, but that's based on something that's unconditional. That meaning that it has no conditions. It's not like, oh, you only receive love if you're only only do this, or if you're only good according to this person's perception of what they think good is.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? So me personally, I try to get out of the kind of I would say the human realm of this whole like good and bad, because when you get above that, you sort of realize that that's so human concepts of trying to do this whole good and bad thing, when it's like it's only good and bad based on the person's perspective. Just because maybe, for some people they may, think that it's bad to, incorporate, mushrooms in a shaman, way or whatever, but because they don't understand that, then they're like, oh, that's bad. But yet these same people will go to church and participate in a blood sacrifice ritual that they have no idea about when it comes to taking communion at church. But because it's so sugar coated and so like, what's the word? It's a word I can't think of it right now. But because like people don't understand behind that particular ritual, that they think that, oh, that's good, but really that's bad, because then you're binding yourself to a cross, which also represents a hex. When you get into more of the occultic, magic kind of way, which that practice was practiced during the darker ages of Egypt, more towards the end. That wasn't really more of a golden age practice that people know of today, because when Rome went and invaded Egypt, they studied the Amun priesthood, who practiced dark magic and used the Book of the Dead to bind people to the book. So they created their own version of the Book of the Dead, which we know today as the Bible. And so there's a lot of magical rituals in the Bible that is straight out of the Book of the Dead and copies of ancient Sumerian tablets and stuff. So so it's real crazy how they don't realize that our world is built on a lot of occultic ritual magic that people are just very unaware of.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a very rich background. I'd like to go back to the idea that you mentioned earlier about how nobody is good or bad, and how that's such a human concept, and how we can get to unconditional love.
Yeah.
Or you're the workshop you're teaching about self-love, and then how self-love helps you get to unconditional love.
Oh yeah.
I find that so essential, because like if we love someone just because they fit our value system, right, we don't really love them.
No, exactly.
Right. You love, and it's hard though to get to that point where you give everything love, no matter what comes, love it. And that also goes back to what we talked about earlier, about when the mountain lion comes to you and you feel threatened, but you encounter it with love and presence, then it doesn't feed that energy. And I think it almost goes back to the idea of self-defense. Unconditional love is a form of self-defense.
It is.
Because you don't entangle yourself with all the bullshit.
Yes. That is exactly it. That's the whole thing, is that when you have self-love, you're not going to let anyone treat you a certain way and you will let people know, like, hey, you know, if you want to have me in your presence, then, you know, there has to be respect. There has to be that, or else, you know, I don't have to accept bad treatment. And I think that's what it is. People, we kind of have this martyr mentality of thinking we're supposed to just get beat up the whole time and just take it, you know. And it's like, no, if you're doing that, you have no love for yourself. Because when you have love for yourself, you're not going to allow anyone to be in your space like that with any negativity. And you know, and for me, it has been such a cleansing for my own personal space, because I don't allow certain people. It's like, I can love you from a distance, but when it comes to like my inner circle, or when it comes to me spending time and stuff like that, I'm not obligated to spend time, you know, with you just because of you thinking, oh, I'm obligated. Like, I think people have this whole thing that, well, you know, if you say you love me, then you're obligated. And it's like, well, no, like, if you're saying that, then you're forcing me to be involved with you, and that is not love. If you're forcing me into something and you want to use love as the force, then you're not operating in love. If you're trying to use love as a force, because love is not a forceful energy. You know what I mean? It's a very, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, love doesn't want, love doesn't expect.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And love has also no jealousy. I think a lot of people confuse jealousy and obsession with love.
Yes.
And
For me, I tell people that when you have that, I categorize that as attachments, and attachments to me go with your crown chakra. And one thing I learned when I was doing my own kind of like personal meditation, some of the messages that were coming to me, was learning how to let go of attachments, because when you do that, then you're able to open up the crown part of your chakra even more, to even have even greater access to the higher chakras and the higher realms and all that kind of stuff. But if you still have attachments, then that can be a negative blockage for you as an individual, because the attachment of another person stirs up jealousy, because you think that that's yours. But why? Who said that that's yours? Like, nobody owns nobody. Nobody owns no one's soul whatsoever. So you can't be possessive. That's another thing too. People confuse love with possession. They feel like, oh, I have to possess this, you know. So, which is why, like, I'm so about, you know, letting people know about just like new ways of just even viewing like relationships and things like that too as well, you know. Because, you know, people ask me like, oh, like, you know, how do you feel about, you know, marriage and stuff like that? And I was like, I believe in sacred marriage, not this marriage that the Vatican created, you know, long ago, in regards to all this paperwork and all this kind of stuff, that kind of patriarchal marriage or whatever. You know, I'm not with that. I'm more with sacred marriage, the marriage between two souls. That's real than any piece of paper, than any of this other stuff. You know what I mean? You can still have a ceremony and celebration of a soul marriage, but the way that it's been conducted here, you know, certain words, and that's something that, like, I talk about in my book. I break down the word wife and husband and how they're both kind of demising one another, where, you know, the husband, when you look at that, the root word of that, the husband means someone who is a master or someone who governs over property, where a wife is someone that's supposed to be veiled. So basically the husband is veiling and own, you know, her, because she is considered property to him. And even when you go into, and that concept stems from the Bible that was created, because in the Bible, when you wanted to own land, you had a land deed or a contract that you would get, or like a certificate, which just aligns up just like a marriage certificate. It's nothing different between a land certificate and a marriage certificate. Dude, it's freaking nuts when I was studying all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so much, you know, it's so much behind that.
Yeah. So what do you think is sacred marriage? I'm wondering,
like I said,
practical
yeah.
reasons. I'm actually married.
Okay. So for
And
me, sacred marriage for me is the marriage between two souls.
yeah,
That's sacred marriage to me. So I feel like, you know, that to me should be the first marriage that should happen between two people, because I feel like when you have that sacred marriage, that bond, it tends to last longer, and then it's not a matter of two people trying to compete against each other, but more trying to encourage each other and basically bring out the best in each other, you know,
yeah,
because the souls are intertwined, you know, where,
hmm,
you know, like I feel like more conscious people understand that more, where you get more like the mundane people, they don't view marriage as it being like a joining of like a marriage between two souls or whatever.
yeah,
They're like when I talk to people and they're like, oh, I got married, I'm like, well, why'd you get married? And I kid you not, the majority of answers I get is they say because of taxes. What? Because of taxes? So because of tax reasons, that's why you got married? Like, oh yeah, well we just figured, you know, it'd be better to, you know, bring our income together and get a tax break.
hmm,
I'm like, I don't feel like that's a good reason to be married, you know, like it should be a little bit deeper than that. But hey,
hmm,
you know, whatever.
yeah.
That's what that's what you're
Um,
choosing.
and
Mhm.
so, do you know about polyamory?
I do, yeah.
What is your take on that?
To me, I feel like poly goes all the way back to like Atlantis days, you know. So that's a very you know, I feel like souls who tend to be drawn to, you know, that kind of energy are older souls, because, you know, being poly, I mean, that was even practiced in Egypt, in Greece. That was like, I would say more, a lot of matriarchal societies
Hmm.
practice poly. Yeah,
And
to where, you know,
can you do it? Have you tried that before?
you know,
Maybe actually before we go into, let's tell our listeners, if they don't know what polyamorous is, or poly. It is
yeah.
it is a way to love other people, more than one person, and to essentially be in love relationships with multiple people, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yep, exactly. And yeah, there's also even more of a spiritual connection too with that. One of the things that came to me, because like before it was even known as poly and all that, years ago, I was receiving something during like meditation, because like I was really being heavy into meditation and really doing a lot of like hermetic study and just really studying a lot. And one of the things I came across just within my journey is how, you know, we truly all have more than one soulmate. And a lot of times, especially in this lifetime, where we're really intertwining with each other, like once again, because, you know, we are at an end of a cycle and going into a new era and everything. So you know, to allow that space to connect, because even some relationships from the past even need healing right now. So just to allow like your partner even to have that space to maybe even either like reconnect or even, you know, heal maybe something that may be past related. So it's like, it's so many multiple elements to it, to where it's like there's this also this spiritual side to it, of
Mhm.
just the soulmate aspect
Yeah.
of it and everything. Yeah.
The reason I'm so curious about this topic is actually because practical reasons. I've been married with my wife not very long, almost a year, mm,
Mhm.
but we've been together for 3 years. And at the same time, I also love another girl that I was together with um, for a year and a half, about 5 years ago. And
Mhm.
our relationship has transformed into a very loving friendship, but we still love each other. And there's also some unresolved karma happening, you know, where it's like we're playing out some patterns and whatnot
Mhm.
still in our friendship. It's getting more balanced, but because I have such an interest in playing out these patterns and learning from them and experiencing them, it unsettles my marriage. where she gets hurt by that, and
Mm-hmm.
and actually recently asked me to not talk to her anymore, although we are just friends. And so it's been a very interesting situation, to say the least, challenging situation, to be like the most respectful thing and the most loving thing to my wife would be to not talk to her anymore, to my ex, because love is about accommodating the will of others. At the same time, though, I feel like love is also about freedom, and love
Yeah,
is also
absolutely.
about sharing love with many people. And
Yeah,
so there's this paradox that I've been wrestling with as
yeah.
how to respond to this challenge, to either bow to someone's triggers, make their life
Mm.
easier by reducing myself and my needs,
Mm-hmm.
or to be like, no, that's actually a boundary I don't want to cross, and I love you, I respect you, I support you, but I have the need to also talk to my friend who I still love. And so, you know what I mean? There's also all this cultural stuff that plays along with it, because we're
Oh yeah.
married, and what married means is we're only there for each other.
Right.
And, and so that whole game comes into it as well, and the responsibility, and so it's been an interesting spiritual and personal challenge to deal with that, and deal with my
Yeah.
attraction for both of them, and having to deny one, transmute it into a friendship because of the circumstance of this culture, of what it means to have relationships. At the
Yeah.
same time, my other ex, Dara, I was together with her for 6 years. She lives now in a polyamorous community with 150 polyamorous people, and in Portugal, and they're kind of building this little utopia there with water retention landscapes and permaculture gardens and compost gas
Wow. In
generation,
Portugal.
solar
Yeah.
power, and they're pretty much unaffected by the coronavirus. At least, you know, for them,
Yeah.
quarantine is just like, okay, well, we're 150 people um, living almost entirely sustainably on this land. So, but anyway, she has no jealousy. For her, love is transcendents everything, even jealousy, even fear of loss. It's just she loves everything and everybody, and
Yeah.
it's very interesting to, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's kind of why for me personally, like for some reason I knew that even when I was like a kid, because I remember telling myself as a kid, I remember talking to my brother, and I told him I was like, dude, I don't feel like regular marriage is for me because of just, and at the time I was just seeing how regular marriage, to me, people didn't seem happy in regular marriage. It seemed like you know someone was being either put down or not being able to have freedom to really be themselves and stuff like that. And to me, I mean, it doesn't even have to be just marriage, just relationships, just period. um you know I've always just had a unconventional way of looking at
Mm.
relationships, and how relationships can be better when people are honest with each other. Because it's amazing. I mean, even within my dating life, I've come across a lot of married married women, and it's just like it's interesting. It's like, wow,
But they're all
they
cheating on their husbands.
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's because they can't even be uh they want to be honest, but then it's the male macho side that denies that, or whatever, or sometimes it's vice versa. So yeah, it's very interesting when uh especially like now. I'm so glad I see more people being open to poly relationships and stuff,
Mm.
because I feel like that's a future that we're heading to where that's going to be even a more common thing. And people are going to be a lot more freeing in that, and not have this jealousy or this possession, this attachment to another person, because you can still be deeply in love with someone and then also express that with another person. And love doesn't have any limitations. It's humans that put limitations on love, not love itself.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
that's exactly it. And it goes then back to having the tools and the inner strength to counteract those psychological patterns that keep us trapped in human identity and human needs and human pain, right? Because for human beings, love brings out pain when we fear to lose it.
Yeah.
Or when we lose it. Or when we think we lost it. When we don't realize that all love is always within us. If we just allow ourselves to go into stillness and go into it. And connect to the source within us. But instead we're programmed or conditioned to go and grab love from outside and try to possess it. I have her, I own her, I own him, and if he leaves me, I'm gonna be devastated. This kind of patterns. And so it really being able to have polyamorous relationship is very difficult, because you have to have this inner strength to see those emotions and breathe through them, or have some way to deal with them. Or maybe you're just such an evolved soul that you don't even deal with that shit anymore. Like some people, I've met people who actually was playing a show in Seattle, and I met this guy with his girlfriend there, and we started talking for a little bit, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm in a polyamorous relationship, I can't do any other relationship. And then he started telling me about how he got to my show, and he said, actually, her other partner bought us the tickets to your show.
Wow.
Yeah, right? like that's another level, right? It's like, hey, you have fun. I'm gonna buy you guys some tickets to the show.
Yeah, that's
like
pretty
to
cool.
Overcome all that ego-based self bullshit and to go out and be so giving is amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's, like I said, I feel like we are collectively heading towards that direction, because I feel like the younger generation, I feel like our generation, younger generation, we'll grasp the whole of it. The older generation is still holding on to the past, but I feel like with everything that's going on right now, I feel like a lot of this is just a message, just letting us know, the old ways are dying off. The old way of doing things, it's not going. Ship. Yeah. It's not moving.
The old
into
way
the
is a thinking ship.
Yeah.
Get
it
off
really
if you can and join the love revolution.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because we got to get back to that level, because it was like that, when you look back at ancient, I'm sorry, not ancient, but ancient, but more like advanced civilizations, you start to see that there were a lot of polyamory communities within the advanced civilizations and stuff, because they vibrated and understood, love on a level that we're just now, getting back to.
Yeah.
Coming back around full circle pretty much. So yeah.
That was quite a ride, this conversation. I think we covered so many topics.
Yeah,
we
did.
Spiritual awakenings. We covered societal organization based on love and fear. Channeling, communication with animals or presence with animals, countering anger and fear with presence and love as self-defense.
Yeah.
Marriage, relationships.
Yeah. All of it.
Well, it was awesome talking to you.
Yeah. Definitely, brother. Yeah.
Yeah, we should keep in touch for sure.
Oh yeah, no, we definitely will.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I definitely want to come. Your book.
Yeah, I'll send you my book and you send me yours.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
And if you ever want to come meditate and hang out by Mount Shasta.
Yeah.
My place is about an hour and a half from Mount Shasta. You can see the mountain, but to get to the mountain is about an hour and a half. But if you ever need a place to stay in that area, definitely hit me up.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely will. I plan on, like I said, I was planning on taking the trip. I wanted to have taken the trip last month, but hopefully by June, I would say like by June, maybe July.
Yeah, cool.
I'm out there. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'll hang out.
All right.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Peace.
All right. Later.